A very good Thursday evening, Stats Race Lens users, horse players, fans, welcome. Here we are right in the midst of the big fall weekend, Fall Stars. Keeneland starts tomorrow. Belmont, the biggest of the two weekends, Super Saturday, Super Sunday, and even Super Monday. We'll give you all the help we can at Keeneland and at Belmont. Looking forward to a fun conversation. Of course, just 3 weeks ago, we were all together for the Woodbine Mile Day card, and I hope you were with us because you got to put on some good horses, including the pricey winners of both the Canadian and also of the Northern Dancer. Had a lot of fun with that one and was looking forward to Breeders' Cup time, and here we are. Craig Walker is with us, and Laffit Pincay. Let's get them in here. Laffit, good evening.
Steve, what's going on? Yeah, it's my favorite time of year. Absolute favorite time of year. Baseball playoffs, Dodgers game 1 tonight, NLDS, so we have to be done before that. I'm seeing we have 2.5 hours. I think we can get it all in. College, pro football in full swing. Breeders' Cup preps. Excited to be here in Lexington for Fall Stars weekend. Was looking forward to the fall part. Going to be in the 80s, so maybe not, but who am I to complain? And great to be on tonight's webinar.
The Dodgers home tonight? No.
Dodgers home. First pitch in 2 hours, 27 minutes, and 33 seconds.
Are you gonna be, if you're going to if you're heading over there, go to Philippe for a French dip.
Philippe takes a backseat to nobody. That's legendary stuff, Philippe's.
We love it. That's one of my favorites. And then up to Chavez Ravine. Craig Walker. Craig, did you win the Little Brown Jug this year?
No, that was not me.
All right.
Yeah, I have not even made the trip there, even though some people at Trackmaster have, but I have yet to make that trip.
Well, I thought, with the 5-horse photo, I thought maybe you might have been in one of the sulkies there. I wasn't sure. It's great to get you in here for this big fall weekend. We haven't talked. How was the rest of your summer play and how's the early fall going?
Yeah, all pretty good. I haven't, actually, I have Laffit to thank for kind of saving my Kentucky Derby day, because the way I had put together my tickets, I just got to change my strategy. I only played trifectas in the Derby instead of the superfecta, and I should have played the super because that long shot Hollendorfer horse ran 4th, but that his Yoshida pick kicked off that late pick 4, and so that salvaged my day made it not as happy as it could be, but at least I wasn't feeling bad like I would if I hadn't hit that pick 4. So thanks, Laffit, for that one.
Came through in a big way. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was nice.
Well, the big days, even Saturdays like this, and frankly, even a day like tomorrow, opening day at Keeneland, last week, opening day at Santa Anita, you get the big pools. It typically will only take one good price. And hell, if we go back to Breeders' Cup last year, you salvaged your entire Breeders' Cup with one play, with Bar of Gold.
Right, exactly. And then too, the thing, I want to tell people too, is you don't always have to go with only your selections. I mean, there's enough ways to put tickets together that you can put other people's ideas in as well, exactly with your horses or part of your pick 3s or pick 4s. So to me, it's always good to listen to all the information you can and then go from there.
I'm just betting. I'm just using the fillies and mares from the Masters. I don't care what they look like on paper. Whoever's exiting the Master and running in the filly mare sprint, that's who I'm going with.
Right. Always a good angle.
We'll have to see actually about. Well, we got to see what happens because Hugh Robertson had made the decision not to bring his nice mare, and so they're going to bypass. No, but there is the nice horse that chased her home may be going.
Could somebody tell Robertson what mares exiting the Masters do in the Breeders' Cup?
He absolutely knew.
Give him a heads up.
He knew. He wants to have a horse for next year, and he's a unique guy actually. The first time I'd had his son Max, but I'd never had you on. Really enjoyed it actually after the Masters. Well, let's see if we can't master the weekend. Before we do that, let's give a quick survey of the promotion like we do each and every webinar. And there's a big savings opportunity, as you can see right in front of you there. Got a nice promotion and a very simple savings code to use. And all you've got to do to sign up for the annual subscription, which is $750, $749. That's unlimited all year, and you'll save $250. Fall Flash is your code, and save 25% on the annual subscription. And it seems like too good of a deal to bypass.
Great deal.
I talked about Breeders' Cup. We'll be together November 1st. And looking at my calendar, 4 weeks from today. And I guess the three of us again, although Christina thought that she was going to, we'll have to get some Christina opinions because today she thought that she was going to join us. So we'll get some of Christina's opinions as well, and probably Ellis's and Dan Torsman as well. And by the way, Dan, you can watch and listen to Dan tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern. He'll be on TVG using his Stats Race Lens analysis for these weekend stakes at Belmont and Keeneland, maybe even some Santa Anita as well. So look for Dan tomorrow on TVG. Let's dive in, Laffit. We'll go to the Beldame, and looking at the way this field came together, and Late, who of course is out, very kind of disappointing. She would have been, looking at the way this field came together, she would have been 4 to 5.
Yeah, and we all saw what she did in this race last year. Sure, Steve, the distaff division has taken a hit, hasn't it? Unique Bella retired a few months ago, Late out of the Breeders' Cup mix. Abel Tasman is sick, explaining the lackluster, dull performance in the Zenyatta. But the flip side of that is that it means opportunity for another to step up in the Beldame. And what you're looking at here, and this is where the Stats Race Lens, the projections here, the pace projection really comes into play. It's a great tool. The second choice is a former $16,000 claimer, number 3, Divine Miss Gray. She is best when she makes the lead, but there is speed right next door in the form of Come Dancing, also number 8, Farrell. But if you see in the pace projection there, depending on what you feel about Divine Miss Gray's chances, they have her in front. That's key. If she does make the lead, if she is the quickest mare in there, she's going to take some catching. And you can see she should establish the pace despite the pressure from Come Dancing and Farrell. So I think that's key. Much like we will discuss in the Shadwell, pace will make this race. How bad does Junior Alvarado want the lead on Divine Miss Gray? How much pressure will Irad Ortiz apply with Come Dancing? How much pressure can he apply? Channing Hill on Farrell, she's quick. You would think, though, from the outside, he'd have more options. I'm not saying we'll see an absolute meltdown in the Beldame as we did in the Jockey Club Gold Cup with Diversify and Mendelssohn leading to the upset by Discreet Lover. But the pace figures to be fast. And I'm looking for a closer, guys. I'm going with number 5, Verve's Tale. And give me a heads up if I call her Tale of Verve, because I've done that like 5 times this week. Verve's Tale. I don't care that she's never won at Belmont Park, 0 for 7 lifetime, because she runs well here. 2nd in 3 of 7 starts. She doesn't win that often. Closers don't win that often. 1 win in her last 12 starts in the last 2 years. That's because she needs the right setup. She needs to take advantage of what I believe the table should be set for Verve's Tale to ambush this field late and take down the Beldame. And by the way, Barkley Tag's barn is firing on all cylinders at Belmont. If you just want to go by the stats, look at Tag's numbers at the meet and look out for Verve's Tale at the Beldame.
Interesting. And that action that we've seen from the Tag barn, it actually started at Saratoga, and it's carried over into the fall and coming back down state. Craig, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm kind of gonna believe the what the race projection had as Divine Miss Gray getting the lead, and also she had the highest late pace too. So that's a good combination to have. That's coming off that last strong race. The other thing I like about this horse is the class rating. When I'm looking at the Equibase speed figures for each horse, I always compare it to the class rating of the race, because that's based on some formulas that we have, and that's kind of the expected Equibase speed figure of the winner. So when I look back at Divine Miss Gray and I look at the mile race at Aqueduct back in December 10th, when I look in the March 10th race, and also when I look at the June 30th race at Monmouth, those numbers of 115, 114, 111, I like that. Those numbers, even though some of them are at the one-turn routes, at least in the longer races, she's ran some nice speed figures before. So I think that's a good sign, and she's 3 for 5 at Belmont with 1 second. So I just think, to me, if she can clear just a little bit by a length or so, to me the 7-2 odds are pretty generous. I kind of like Junior Alvarado on these types of horses. I've had good luck in the past with him on these type of horses, so I'm always kind of prone to that as well. And so Divine Miss Gray is my pick in this race.
How much pressure do you think she sees, Steve?
I think there'll be plenty of pressure. There's too many here that come dancing is going to lap on her right off the bell. You know that Farrell, especially after the fiasco in the Personal Ensign, that she's going to want to be where she likes to be. So you've got at least the three of them that are going to be grappling, and I think you're going to get an honest pace at the very least, and even a horse like Teresa Z may prompt a little bit from underneath and gain some position. I mean, she's going to get the rail because she's faster than Dream Call to her inside. So I think there's plenty of pace in here. The horse that I got to keep coming back to personally, and I think she'll be better than that 5-2 morning line, is Wildcat, the Chilean. I really enjoyed watching her at Saratoga, and the Triple Crown winner down in Chile, and I think she's a real horse. And look at who she was facing this summer. The first North America. I forgive that. I wasn't thrilled that she didn't finish the way she might have. I thought that she would be way more competitive in the Personal Ensign than it turned out. But Abel Tasman and the late aren't here, so she might sit a very good trip right behind the speed. And Jose Ortiz figures to know when to push a button. I hope Wildcat is north of that 5-2. I hope she's up around 4-1.
Yeah, this isn't your grandfather's Beldame, and that's why you've got a former $16,000 claimer as the second choice in the morning line in Divine Miss Gray. And it would be a great story if she's able to wire this field and punch her ticket for the Breeders' Cup, is that?
Well, and all you have to do is go back to last week's claimer to Grade 1 winner, looking at Basilica. Had the conversation with Jerry Hollendorfer yesterday. Even Hollendorfer acknowledged they never expected that kind of a pinnacle from her.
She's sharp. She is sharp.
Yeah, just one other thing I'd like to add. One thing that when we talk about the pace battles and different things, one thing that I do think helps Divine Miss Gray is I use the Trackmaster PPs. So I have the over here where the times would normally be, I have the early pace figure and the middle pace figure, and when you have these front runners that the numbers go higher, so it goes 80, 83, 104. I mean, the other race wasn't that good. It went 110, 99, 84. But she has a lot of races where the figures are going up. So that means she's not really a pure speed horse. She can ration it, and so those kinds of horses, I give them a lot better shot in a race where there could be a battle like we're talking about here than the typical front runner. So that's just, if you use the Trackmaster style of past performances and race lens, it's just another tool that you can use to try to help you figure that out.
But if you liked her in the first place, and then you look at the pace projector and Race Lens says she's going to clear, I think you're feeling better about her chances, and maybe her price does inflate because she's expected to perhaps get caught up in a pace duel. Divine Miss Gray, former $16,000 claimer, Danny Gargan, very good trainer, but you don't associate him with Grade 1 winners. Maybe that price creeps up and you feel a little bit better about playing the front running filly in the Beldame.
Let's turn to the Hill Prince, the Grade 2, and this race has been moved around by Naira, and this is really kind of a good use for it at this time of year for the 3-year-olds, going 1.1 miles on the inner turf, and we'll start here with Craig.
Yeah, so the horse that I'm landing on is number 8, Ride a Comet, at 3-1 in the morning line. This just is the type of improving horse that I like to bet on. When you look at the latest Equibase speed figures, the horse goes from an 88 to a 102 to a 111 to a 113. I mean, that's the type of improvement you want to see in these 3-year-olds as the year progresses. The other thing is that the 113 that he earned, that was the last race was 1 mile and 1/8, which is what this race is. So I think that's a good sign that the improvement is coming as the distances are getting longer. And so I just think, also looking at when I look at the race projection, the horse still slow here.
It's slow, and I blame you, Steve.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to go back. There it is. So on the race projection, it does just figure, I do like that this type of horse is going to be outside. The obvious favorite is going to be Raging Bull with the 6-5 morning line. But I do like how this horse is going to be kind of tracking outside the 3 on the race projection. I mean, they may be further back in the pack than is shown here because they like to be further back, but just they're so much better than everyone else. The race projection shows them that if the jockeys do want to control the race, they would be able to. I mean, I do think Raging Bull is a strong contender. I mean, is deserved 6-5 favorite. I'm just hoping that the kind of the outside position, the 1.1 mile distance. I'm not sure what the track condition is going to be. Raging Bull, seems to love any kind of soft track, so it could be up against it if it's a yielding track again. But we'll just have to see as far as that goes. That's the only thing that would maybe dampen my enthusiasm and have Raging Bull have closer to a better chance than Ride a Comet.
It's not supposed to rain over the weekend, Steve. What's the turf course like?
No, we're good. No, I think we're finally good. Although the crazy thing is that no matter what the forecasts have been, we've managed to somehow end up with rain. I mean, even today here. I mean, I'm 3 hours north, obviously upstate, but it from what I understand and just looking ahead, we seem free and clear. About 10% chance tomorrow, 13% chance Saturday. So today they were yielding and good in spots. You should be pretty close to firm by Saturday. And be aware, particularly on the Widener, on the main turf course. This race is run on the inner, but on the main turf course, the rail has come down. As soon as the rail came down, the inner track has the inner portion of the Widener turf course has really carried horses, and that is the, I mean, not just the best part of the turf course. It's a part of the turf course that is absolutely propelling horses. Those that were watching what was it, the nightcap on Saturday when Lion and Wait ended up getting past Ferdinanda somehow. It looked like the race was over, and next thing you know, Lion and Wait rallied back. That's the kind of propelling factor that perfect ground on the inside has been on the Widener turf course. So just keep that in mind as you play Belmont here the next at least through this weekend.
I would have felt so much better about my Hill Prince selection if you were talking about the inner, but you're talking about the golden rails down Widener. Yeah, this is on the inner. I felt like I was stretching guys trying to find a horse to beat Raging Bull. Had Analyze It run here, and instead of the Shadwell Turf Mile, maybe we'd have something to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and concede the Hill Prince to Raging Bull. Man, Peter Brand has some good horses, doesn't he? It's Chad Brown, graded stakes race. They're on the grass. Stats are strong. Enough said. We know that. Horse I'm looking to use with Raging Bull is the colt drawn inside. Have at it. So I hope the rail is good. It's the going is good on the inner turf course. Have at it. I've had this conversation with Jerry Bailey, several times. These races run at Belmont when you're braking on or near the bend, the turn, main track in a 1.25 mile situation, Jockey Club Gold Cup, or at this distance on the inner. There's such an advantage to being drawn inside, and Have at it does have that rail to work with. I realize he was no match for Raging Bull the last time they met in the Hall of Fame, but that was on yielding ground, like we were just discussing. Footing should be more to Have at its liking. So I did want to take a look back at what happened in the Better Talk Now Stakes, Have at its last race. If we could pull that up. And again, this is one of the best tools, and one of the advantages about Race Lens is it's one-stop shopping in the sense that you have the race replays handy. It's so helpful in not having to go search for them. So Have at it. When they pull it up, you'll see it's one thing to read, wide, first turn, fanned, far turn. It's another to go back and see how well he actually ran. So again, this was the Hall of Fame 3-year-olds at Saratoga. This is the Better Talk Now. And what you're going to be watching for is Have at it and what happens to him going into the first turn. There's horses that sometimes lose some ground, and that's going to cost him. And then there's this. He really gets spun out of this turn. There we go. So there he is. There's Have at it, really getting fanned there, losing ground, and it's not going to get that much better. He gets carried out, he gets floated out, whatever you want to call it, losing all kind of ground. That's brutal, and it didn't get better later on in the race. Is there any chance we could? I know we're having a little bit of an issue with the stream. If we could,
went too far. Hold on.
We'll pick it up on the far turn. We promise. So you saw where he lost ground there. Not helpful.
No.
I'll get it. Again, we have 2 hours and 5 minutes till first pitch. Braves Dodgers. We have all the time in the world. Maybe not this much time.
Yeah, it's just too hard to control with the.
Okay, so if we don't want to take our viewers' time watching races, maybe they've already seen, but the point is, you saw him get spun out in the first turn, and the fact that on the far turn, not getting any better later in the race, he'd lose another 3 or 4 lengths. All right. In the end, Have at it wind up losing this race by a neck after all that ground loss. That was the difference. This time, Have at it will have the racing luck on his side, theoretically. I don't expect him to beat Raging Bull, but I do expect him to run well. And taking a peek at the true odds from Stats Lens, they're showing him around 9-1. I'm interested to see where the money goes and what kind of price you get on Have at it. But with that effort, just missing after losing all that ground both turns, have at it. I think take advantage of that inside post in the heel prints. I think it's going to be a factor.
In addition to those three, because I think you have focused in on the right three, I would also take a long look at using Column Road in your deep exotic tickets, in your tries and supers. The way he rallied at Kentucky Downs was really notable, and he also had run a courageous race at Saratoga as well into a slow pace. And so I think with the addition of Jose Ortiz, Column Road has got a bit of a look. I think this is a horse with upside. This is a very sharp, pretty typical claim for the Wyckoff family. And Mike Maker, who had a really sluggish summer, started to wake up in September. Kentucky Downs helped them, and it seems like everybody's running pretty well out of that barn. So Column Road, who I think is 10-1 on the morning line and is absolutely going to get ignored, but I think you want him on your try and your super tickets. Let's press forward. We'll go to the Champagne, and the 2-year-old races are going to be closely watched. Obviously, we'll talk about the Futurity at Keeneland in a minute, but given how good Game Winner looked at Santa Anita in the American Pharoah, he feels like your juvenile favorite in the Breeders' Cup. So it feels like something special has got to happen in either of these two races to vie for favoritism with Game Winner. The field that was assembled here is really interesting, and there's quite a few horses that are probably dirtied up or obscure to a lot of players. We'll start with Laffit in here. The Champagne, the important one-turn mile.
Yeah, I think I found one. I think I may have found one after making the selection in this race. Then I did it off past performances and race lens, not looking at a morning line. Then I found out Casa Creed is 30-1. Craig, can we go ahead and pull up his maiden win? The Champagne, last year, the Champagne, the winner, Firenze Fire, one of the best sprinters / dirt milers in the country. Look forward to seeing him in either the Breeders' Cup Sprint or Dirt Mile. Good Magic, second in last year's Champagne, now retired, but goes out a Breeders' Cup champion and dual Grade 1 winner. It's an exciting race, not just because of implications to the Breeders' Cup historically and how many truly great gifted horses have competed in the Champagne. So a competitive group, and this is the 30-1 shots maiden win Casa Creed. I was hoping a while back to see Belmont's Mucho in here. Casa Creed breaks from the 2 post, is in the hot pink colors. Mott doesn't have Mucho, and I think maybe he still has the right horse at a big price. You see him break. He's going to be down along the inside. This was his maiden win August at Saratoga. And again, so great about race lens, having access to these replays right at your fingertips. Casa Creed in the pink. He's going to ride the rail, and he's going to stay down there the length of the backstretch. What I'm going to eventually want to pay attention to is the professionalism that he displayed rounding the far turn. So again, Casa Creed, and you have to wonder from that spot how he winds up so wide going on the far turn. Eventually you'll see challenger after challenger starts to pass him, and his rider has to be very patient. And for a 2-year-old to demonstrate that kind of professionalism is what impressed me about the maiden win. It's going to start right about here. Still Casa Creed down on the inside, pink colors, waiting to get out, but no panic whatsoever. He's taking dirt and happy to sit there and wait for his cue. So a couple of horses have passed him on the outside. Now he's wheeled to the far outside. He loses some ground, and watch him turn it on. You watch the acceleration, and in an instant he's in front. You look at his stride. He looks good in his maiden race. Professional, classy colt, I think is what we're looking at here. He draws clear. He looks like a runner. Look at his stride. It wouldn't be the first time Jimmy Creed's have been successful going longer. I like the outside post for Casa Creed in the Champagne. I was very surprised to see that he was 30-1, but it was that professionalism, sitting in behind horses, waiting for a cue, wheeling out, losing ground, turning it on and winning, going away. I think 30-1 is absolute larceny on Casa Creed. No monsters on paper in the Champagne, so if you're going to find, this is the kind of year in a wide open race you can find a big price. I'm going with Casa Creed.
Look at you. Casa Creed, who tried to sneak in to the Pilgrim the other day. They were looking for an MTO just in case the rains continued and somehow the Pilgrim came off the turf. But Lee Einsiedler, who owns Casa Creed, and the Jimmy Creed is, I'll give you both ends of the name. The Creed, obviously, is Jimmy Creed. The Casa is Casa Amigos, the tequila that Lee created for Randy Gerber and for what's his name? Oh my gosh, George Clooney and Randy Gerber. This is the tequila that they used to have made for them down in Mexico at Cabo, and then it was brought out. Some of you have probably had you've seen it in bars, the Casa Amigos brand. Yeah. So that's what the Casa stands for. Lee and Bill Mott wasn't necessarily thinking that they would make this run, but the horse has actually taken them there. So why not? Lee didn't put pressure on. Mott said to him, I think he can compete. So there's for what
no mood show. Nobody as good as an Instagram or a Roadster. A lot of these races are a lot about the horses who aren't here, which is disappointing for us. Looking forward to the Breeders' Cup, and you want to see the best horses possible, not only in the Breeders' Cup but in the prep races. But as a handicapper, this is where you can take advantage. You don't have to be scared away by a Grade 1 or scared away by a horse who simply is, outclasses everyone else on paper. This thing is wide open.
Well, we might be scared into playing some horses whose performance figures are somewhat gaudy. And Craig, I think that you're in that direction.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from. I've always been prone to bet these 2-year-olds that run big figures and that they don't get any respect, because of the jockey or the trainer or the owner or just the breeding or who they've been racing against. But I will always usually give the benefit of the doubt to a young 2-year-old that runs big figures. Until they run poorly, I'm going to keep taking chances on them, and that's why I landed on Trophy Chaser here. One thing I do like is that after Laffit picked Casa Creed as the jockey in that race was Junior Alvarado, and he's getting on Trophy Chaser. So to me, that's a positive sign that I hadn't really noticed before. But you see the 115 Equibase speed figure is the thing that stands out if we look at the true odds. We'll see that this horse is projected to go to the early lead, and I think just the video and these things are moving a little slow just because when we go through the webinar software, sometimes it slows things down. But you can see that the Trophy Chaser is projected to have the lead, and that in adjusted true odds, when the odds are highlighted in yellow, that means it's a possible overlay. So right now it's comparing the odds to the morning line odds, but when the live odds come in, then the highlighting will be based on these odds compared to the live odds. So those things are both things that I like about Trophy Chaser. The other thing is that the sire Trolling Candy have been having a big year with all types of horses really this year, but especially the 2-year-olds. Out of 84 starts, they have 21% winners, and with a 33% positive ROI. So I just think that this horse may be, just the fastest at this kind of race this time of year right now. I just think that maybe it can just go and just say, "Come catch me," and then we'll see what happens. The other horse that I'm going to use in this race is based on the true odds, the adjusted true odds. The number 4 is the top pick. Also, the 4 on the race projection seems to be tracking the 2. A lot of these top, for sure now I will use Casa Creed, of course, in my wagers, along with the 2 and the 4. But a lot of times when I have, for Mary, even though I didn't pick it, for sure I will box Casa Creed and complexity as well. So a lot of times when I'm playing horses that are 10 to 1, 15, 20, 25 to 1 morning line, I'm going to play them with the favorite and exactas a lot of times, as long as I don't think it's a false favorite. So a lot of times that's the way that I kind of back myself up. So that's the way I'll be playing this race.
And Craig, again, I did it without a morning line. Trophy Chaser's the horse I had underneath, and going a little bit farther, Twirling Candy. I think he's legit. He's very fast, talented, and we've learned too many times not to disregard these Florida shippers in the fall, going out to some of the bigger venues and making their presence felt.
The only other horse I want to there's 2 horses I want to throw in for consideration. Code of Honor for Shug McGahee, who is certainly not known to have him cranked up for debuts, but absolutely ran. I thought one of the best races of the year among the 2-year-olds at Saratoga. Code of Honor will stretch out in here. Shug, if you pull up the numbers, Shug is very strong on the stretch out. And Call Paul is a horse that I think you got to look at. This is the Frisian Fire for Michael Dubb and Jason Service. Gary Young bought this horse. They've been sky high on him. And, of course, he won the Saratoga Special. And literally minutes after that, they knew their next start would be the Champagne. And certainly another great stretch-out performer in Jason Service. So those are the 2 that I want, along with the obvious players. And really, one of the storylines in here is wet track winners having to recreate their performances, including Aurelius Maximus. He does have, to his benefit, he is the only horse in here that has won at a mile. And that's usually an important bellwether. But like a few others in here, including Endorsed, the Kieran McLaughlin Godolphin homebred, and Trophy Chaser as well. Whenever you get 2-year-olds that win big on wet tracks, I'm always a tiny bit leery, anticipating, a repeat. A lot of times they'll move backwards off those kinds of efforts. So that's the one proviso I would put on the wet track winners. But it's a really a fun group in this year's Champagne, and undoubtedly we'll send at least a couple, if not more, players on to Kentucky. Let's move on to Kentucky.
Real quick, Steve, just something to pay attention to wagering. Something to pay attention to in the wagering in the Champagne. The fact that Jose Ortiz is in New York riding Complexity. Irad Ortiz is in New York riding Call Paul. Their presence, they're going to get overbet a little bit. You know that a lot of handicappers just instinctively, if a horse is coming back in any race and doesn't have the same rider or loses a star rider, that horse tends to get ignored to a certain extent. You mentioned Achilles Warrior, Javier Castellano. He'll be in Lexington riding at Keeneland. Dylan Davis takes over, and same can be said for the McGahee Colt. John Velasquez rode him in his debut at Saratoga. Eric Cancel riding. If you like the horse going in, those changes from superstar Hall of Fame jockey to somebody else can really help your price. Absolutely. Let's move over to Kentucky. And two of the
two of the races that really make the weekend are the grass races, the Classy Grade 1s, the Shadwell Mile, and the First Lady. And let's start with the First Lady, Craig. Then we'll look at the Futurity and the Shadwell.
Yeah, so here I am, even though I don't always like to play favorites, this is a favorite that I just think looks outstanding right here. Dora, I think, is that how you pronounce it? I didn't pay attention, but on the replays. But the first thing I noticed is Laffit had mentioned earlier. Peter Brandt with Chad Brown is, of course, purchasing nice horses. So you can see last November at the fall mix sale at Fasig-Tipton, he spent $3.6 million for this horse. So you see that they waited until July to race this horse in an allowance race, and they kind of just really didn't push the horse a lot. And then even the next race, they ran in the Woodford Reserve. I think the horse was, well rated inside and ran a nice race. I don't think was fully extended. So I mean, I just think that they're trying to get a Grade 1 win for her, and that I think this has probably been the target all along. And so I just think, everything seems to be coming up well in this race. The class rating is a 113. Back when this horse was running at its best at the end of last year, it earned a 113 and a 116 Equibase speed figures. So I just think it's all systems go with this horse, and the horse is going to be pretty tough to beat. Also, there are just some one of my angles that I use is when Chad Brown, when there's it's a different version of a jockey switch, I guess you would say. Sometimes when they go to one of their favorite jockeys, so this one would be when Chad Brown switches to Javier Castellano, and it's a turf route. It's a 10% profit. I can click on the angle here, and we'll bring it up. So it should come up. It'll be like we see here. We see the 49 starts, 27% win percent, and 31% to place. That's 58% of the time, first or second, and it's still a profit of 10%. So a lot of times when I'm looking at these top jockeys and trainers, you can find these angles that are still profitable, and so there's still some value there betting these types of horses. And then the other horse that I like as a contender this race that I'm going to throw in as well is the number 4 horse. And I just want to mention a couple of things about this horse, because I know this is the horse that the one that Laffit ended up with. But I just wanted to say that this horse ran a 117. So we have these figures where they're comparable to the Equibase speed figures, but we've come up with a system that develops speed ratings for all these foreign tracks. And so the 117, when you look at that speed figure, you can compare it to the other Equibase speed figures or to the class ratings. And so this horse, that's a nice comparison. If it can repeat that race, it's going to be tough in here. And then also, I forgot to mention on Quidura that Dubawi horses do well at Keeneland in the turf routes there, and so that's another thing to like about this horse. So Laffit, you can talk more about the things you like about Crown Walk.
Yeah, at first I was taken aback by how productive this race has been. The First Lady Tour, it's a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf, but because of the distance, because it is a mile, you wouldn't think that it would be as it has a productive at the Filly Mare Turf, which is run at 1.25 miles, mile and 3/8, 3 horses, Intercontinental 05, Forever Together 08, Day at the Spa 14, won here, and then went on to capture the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf. Tevin, of course, who won here and then went on to beat the boys in the mile. Yeah, I'm surprised I'm doing what I'm doing here, guys, but I'm going to try and beat the powerful Chad Brown trio. If Sister Charlie was here, I wouldn't, but she's not. I can't excuse her Raving Beauty's last race. I just can't. So I'm taking a stand against her. Kadura's a threat, a major threat for the reasons Craig just pointed out, but she won't have the same easy trip, I don't think. And the pace projection doesn't think that she'll have that same easy trip in the Boston Spa, and Off Limits hasn't looked great this year. So for me, it's the English import Crown Walk, recognizing how trendy, can we still call it trendy? Handicappers have been doing it for years, blindly going with the U.S. debuting Europeans in a graded stakes race on grass. But I liked what I saw in the Group 1 Prix Rothschild at Deauville in France late July. With You, smoked her, top class European mare, smoked her. She was no match for her, but she finished second and had every reason to pack it in. With You had brushed her off. Crown Walk then was passed by her Godolphin stablemate by like a length and a half. I'm sorry, about a half length it was. And she dug in and fought back to save second. Now, you can't quantify heart and class with statistics, but that's what it looks like. A horse on the inside who's been passed, re-rallying to save second. That's what Crown Walk did in her last race, the Group 1 in France. She's a talented filly. I did want to take a look, guys, and see what her true odds were. She's 4-1 on the morning line. If we could take a look at Crown Walk's true odds, I'm assuming, because just everything that Chad Brown bets gets overbet. All right, so they have her 7-2. Okay, I can live with that if that's where she belongs. But I think the actual price at post time inflates. So I like seeing this race lens with the true odds. When you look up and you see that maybe the Brown trio is getting overbet and Crown Walk is up there, maybe 6-7-1 when she should be 7-2. That's go time. That's go time for me. And just on a side note, Mike Smith riding for the first time. Not that you need anyone to illustrate why that's significant, but kind of a cool side note. The first time Smith ever rode for Godolphin, first time ever, won a Breeders' Cup race from Outstrip in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. That was the first time, hard to believe, Smith had ever ridden in those Godolphin blue colors a few years ago. So I'll be paying attention to the wagering and hoping that this filly gets away, Crown Walk, at a better price, knowing that Race Lens has her as 7-2 and a major contender.
It's an interesting group, and the fact that we haven't talked about the other Chad Brown on the outside, Off Limits, a little notable coming out of that return to action in the Boston Spa. Drawn outside. I would love to find an alternative. I had been a big La Sardane fan. I didn't like that effort up in Canada. Valdorna, a horse that Cassie is. She's had a very spotty 4-year-old campaign. That was an improved effort in the ladies at Kentucky Downs. I'll watch the board. I may find my way to bet her. I really struggled with this beyond the obvious, and the obvious really are the Chad Brown players. Let's turn to the 2-year-old event, the 9th. The Breeders' Futurity, and again, much like the Champagne, we've got a wide array of 2-year-olds that have come from a number of spots on the compass. Let's start with Laffit, and how you approaching this?
It's, as you like to say, Steve, eye crossing. No Cairo Cat. That's a big defection. 14 2-year-olds, 38 combined races in terms of experience. I guess that shouldn't surprise any of us. The bigger the field, as competitive as a race is on paper, you have to look at Trip with that short run going into the first turn, a mile and a 16th at Keeneland. And this is what I wanted to see from Racelands and the race projection. They still have mind control out in front. He's arguably the most talented colt in the field. He's the field's lone Grade 1 winner. Marooned outside, this, if I like mind control going in, this makes me feel better about him. Now, again, quick, but so are some of the horses drawn to his inside, but they have him clearing and getting over. So I guess the questions you have to ask yourself are, A, is he quick enough to clear? Racelands is telling you he is. If not, how much ground would he lose by the race projection? Doesn't look like that's a concern. How much does Johnny V have to use him? How much energy spent? A lot to ask of a young, maturing prospect. I'm going to take a stand, but if I liked him going in, I feel better about what I'm seeing here on the race projection. Speaking of Trip, let's take a look at number 2, Sambaye. And you see where he figures to be just off of mind control. Sambaye, finally a good post. He's been pinned inside in his last 2 races, going 1 turn at Saratoga. We're going to take a look at his hopeful. He was able to overcome the rail and still win the Sanford while encountering some traffic, Sambaye. Let's take a look at the hopeful if we get a chance. And again, I like to just sometimes as handicappers maybe get a little bit lazy. You got to go look for a replay. The beauty of Racelands, it's right there at your fingertips. So Sambaye, this was the hopeful. It's just a lot to ask. Getting stuck on the fence again. Again, he won the Sanford, overcoming traffic from the rail. Has the rail, it's just a tough spot to win for a young, developing racehorse, especially going 7/8. And he'll get the inside trip. And the starlight colors there on the inside. Sambaye, he will be trapped down along the inside. No real traffic, but he takes so much dirt. And again, just a tough spot to be in. Eventually, he does wheel out, and you're going to see, and if you watch let the replay go through, just caked, covered in dirt. And he runs fourth on class alone. So as you continue to watch the hopeful, the point where Sambaye is now going 2 turns. He has the desired inside post for the Breeders' Futurity. So while everyone to the outside is going to be hustled and jockeying for position, Sambaye figures to break and settle. We already looked at the race projection. He's going to be just off of the favorite in mind control. He'll be just off the pace, saving ground inside of horses, a position he's used to being in. And I expect Sambaye to thrive at this middle distance, mile to a mile and a 16th. That's what I'm looking for Into Mischief. Stalk, save ground, and pounce, just like you're riding a turf race, Louis Sai is. And I believe Sambaye will provide Todd Pletcher with his 3rd Breeders' Futurity win. As we're still looking through the hopeful here, Sambaye is going to wheel out finally. And like I said, he's going to run fourth. He's not going to threaten mind control. It's just a tough spot to be in. And where the race shape wasn't in his favor in the hopeful or the Sanford that he just won, it will be in the Breeders' Futurity. And watch him when he look at him, just absolutely caked, covered, but on class alone, still trying, still plugging away to a 4th place finish. Liked what I saw in those races. No quit, no fight. It's a nice colt, and I think he's going to be a factor with a much better trip in the Breeders' Futurity.
Craig.
So I'm also a Sambaye fan as well. When we looked at the race projection, the horse was highlighted in yellow, which is telling you that it's a possible overlay. Another thing I like to look at Keeneland here is I look into the sire Into Mischief. Just take 1 second. So this is looking at when we look at the filters that are here. I had selected this before. So this is at today's track. So this is at Keeneland dirt routes. If you look for the past 5 years, out of 23 starts, from Into Mischief offspring. There's been 8 wins, so 35% winners, 61% in the money with a plus 9% ROI. These young types of horses, or a lot of these races that horses that go from different circuits and the big races, I do sometimes in my tiebreakers are these breeding. I do look at the breeding at the track and see, has there been success for the offspring of these sires? And so to me, it's a very positive sign. Everything that, of course, Laffit said is a good sign about this horse. One thing I just wanted to mention now here, as we're getting close to the end, is that we do have in the monthly newsletter this month, I noted that we are going to be having now the angles that were limited to going back only 1 year, that if you do it for the sire, jockey, dam, or trainer, if you pick a single one or a single track, you'll be able to go back 5 years instead of just 1 year. So that'll make things a lot more helpful for some of the statistics. You'd rather go back for 5 years rather than just the one that you want to look at. Or like when Laffit had asked me when we were handicapping earlier about the post positions at Keeneland, when Mind Control was stuck out in the 13 hole, and currently you can only look back 1 year of post positions, but on October 22nd, everything seems to be going along as planned. That will go into place where you can go back 5 years on something that's like that's track specific. And so I know it was I looked it up and it was 0 for 13 from either the 13 or 14 post position at Keeneland over. I looked at the last 4 years because the 5th year back was when it was a synthetic track. So that really wasn't. The only thing was there were a lot of big long shots in some of those post positions, so it wasn't 100% a slam dunk to bet against them, but it was a good enough clue that that I think for sure you're on the right track with that. And it's a good thing that you asked, because that's the type of thing that we were wanting to get to, and now we've been able to, and that's going to be a great addition coming up later this month.
Yeah, the farther you can go back, the farther you can go back, the better, and having more of a sample. And Steve, you brought up something this morning on your radio show about setting your angles, and that maybe you're accustomed to just playing Belmont, just playing Keeneland, just playing Santa Anita in the fall, and maybe one of the angles you love is applicable as at a racetrack you never would have bothered looking at. You get an alert, and all of a sudden you're pretty excited. You're invested. There's a horse with an angle that you love as a handicapper. Who cares about what track it might be? If there's a philosophy, there's a theory, a handicapping angle you follow, you set those angles, you get that alert. How frustrating is it when you're reading some chart later on in a horse that paid $40 who fits to a T, a horse you would typically gamble, but because it wasn't a track you normally play, it's an opportunity missed. Not anymore.
Exactly. I mean, from early on, I called this the most valuable stable alert system ever invented, because it's going to comb, every single race, every single day. And most of us, I'd say all of us can't, survey and look at every race every single day. That's the beauty of this. Before we turn to the Shadwell.
I just want to mention one other horse in this race, and that was number 8, Tobacco Road. He was my other choice in here at 12-1. Had a lot of good data with the sire quality road, and so I just wanted to mention that as the other horse that I had in this race before we move on to the 10th and wrap things up.
Well, I will also I'll mention that I do like an Into Mischief, and I do like a Dale Romans, but it's not Sombaye and Tobacco Road. Mr. Ankeny, and Dale Romans is bucking, I believe, for his 5th Breeders' Futurity.
That sounds right.
In fact, he won this with Dennis Albaugh last year with Free Drop Billy, and a couple of years earlier for Donegal. And Mr. Ankony's breakthrough maiden win at Ellis, that race has already produced Mr. Money. Mr. Ankony found himself in Tight 10's debut race and also behind Tobacco Road at Ellis. Mr. Ankony, to me, is a horse that can adjust pace-wise. You look at that pace projector, he's a horse that on the stretch out really kind of fits based on his running style and his internal fractions, his pace abilities that he has shown so far. I thought Mr. Ankony at 12-1 was a horse that you absolutely want to be aware of Saturday in the Breeders' Futurity. Let's shift to maybe the best race of the weekend, and the roster in this Shadwell Mile, top to bottom, just terrific. And there's a lot of good racing this weekend. This race has the potential to be the best. Craig.
Yes.
Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah. So just for me, I just am kind of taking a simple approach to this race, and I'm just going with on the race projection. When I look at the other data over here on the other side, the data columns of the true odds, there are just two horses that stand out, and that's number 11, Almanar, and number 10, Analyze It. And you can see they're both highlighted in yellow with the adjusted true odds. They both had some good things going for them. Almanar also had the Chad Brown doing a jockey switch to Castellano. And then if I go look at the PPs and analyze it, I just want to mention one thing, and then we can let Laffit talk about why he likes to analyze it. I just wanted to show one thing that I think is going to be key on Breeders' Cup Day. And just when Analyze It comes up, I just have one point to make about the day that he raced. And then we can have Laffit give his opinion. And so so at Arlington that day that Analyze It raced, and the other horse that Laffit mentioned earlier, the Sister Charlie, raced on this day. There were quite a few big turf races as well as big races on the dirt. It came up with an unusual track bias that you don't see too often, and so it was out here at the end. You always have the running style and the when you mouse over, it'll tell you, and the track. And so this was a strong trailers day. So that means horses were coming from dead last or near the back of the pack and winning race after race on the turf that day. So in my mind, I'm going to be going against those horses on Breeders' Cup Day, and some of the horses that maybe were closer to the pace and gave it up late, they might be possible bets to do something on Breeders' Cup Day. So I just wanted to give that out as a heads up for races from that day at Arlington. Go ahead, Laffit.
That's a very useful tool. It's amazing how you can look at a race much differently. You say, oh, did you see this horse? They went wire to wire, looked amazing. Did you see the fractions? And then you learn that it was a speed favoring track. You don't quite feel the same about that race. So a terrific tool with Raceland. Again, we track tendencies on specific days. Yeah, you guys called it. It's an all-star cast. You have more data here than you do with the 2-year-olds, but still 14 of them going a mile in the Shadwell Turf Mile. And it's going to be fun right from the start. I wanted to go back to the pace projector because the beginning of this Shadwell Turf Mile figures to be just as exciting as the finish. The big guns are going to come out blazing. Pace is going to make this race with Heart to Heart, Analyze It, and Voodoo Song. And the race projector here has Heart to Heart clearing. That's how he's going to be effective. That's how he was so good in this race last year, albeit he did succumb late and denied yet another grade 1 at the time before Heart to Heart was a grade 1 winner. So if you feel good about Heart to Heart, you see if you think he can clear, analyze it in Voodoo Song, there you have it. The race projection has him in front. But let's go back to the 4-star Dave at Saratoga if we can for a second here, Craig. And I guess for me, the question is going to be the riders and who's willing to sell out for the lead and who's going to be a little bit more conservative. In the 4-star Dave, you saw a perfect example of what happens when 4-star Dave, when Heart to Heart is denied the early lead. Again, the race projector has him clearing, analyze it, and Voodoo Song, and a better post towards the inside. You get that pulled up. Good opportunity to plug the NBC coverage this weekend for me, Steve. Two NBC shows, 90 minutes each, both on NBC. And the Shadwell Turf Mile will be featured along with the 2-year-olds in the Breeders' Futurity and the First Lady. So yeah, this is the start. This is the 4-star Dave at Saratoga. Heart to Heart, white colors, blue cap. Eventually you'll see he's just going to be a little bit sluggish into stride, Heart to Heart. Now, he'll find himself right next to the very quick Voodoo Song, and here's the moment of truth. They're side by side. The difference, guys, Lizcano on Voodoo Song is committed to the lead. He's going no matter who goes with him. Leperoux on Heart to Heart, who's clearly better when he makes the lead, is happy to settle for second. Voodoo Song clears. And we don't have to go through the whole race. What's important is that was the difference on that particular afternoon, that Heart to Heart just isn't the same horse when he doesn't make the lead. Voodoo Song, right where he liked to be, strong. He got brave on the lead, and he goes on to win his first grade 1. He faltered in the Bernard Baruch. I think the cut back to a mile is key for Voodoo Song. So jockey tactics and how aggressive is Leperoux going to be with Heart to Heart if pressed once again by Voodoo Song. Having said all that, I'm going with the field's only 3-year-old. Analyze it. No Catholic boy, no problem. That'll be the battle cry for Team Analyze It. He gets the nod from me in what is one of the most competitive Shadwell Turf Miles we have ever seen. Of course, the combination of John Velasquez, Chad Brown in a grade 1 turf race. I'll take my chances with him. I still think as good as Analyze It's been, I still think he has more to give. I think we see it on Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's just a wonderful group of horses. Analyze It absolutely makes tremendous sense in here, and if you get 9-2, that'll be very attractive. Considering that he's coming out of longer distance races, one of the things that you can see right there in that pace projector, the reason that he is not as on the lead as people might expect is because he's coming out of longer races. So they're going to run away from him early, but that might be fine. He's going to get first run. I tell you, the horse that I'm interested in at an enormous price, and it's Big Score. Tim Yakteen could have stayed home and run in the City of Hope Mile. He comes here, and if you think back and look back to the last time that Big Score won a race, it happened to be at Keeneland.
The Transylvania, yeah.
Keeneland is a sand-based turf course. It's different than most turf courses, and horses that have shown any affinity for the sand-based turf at Keeneland deserve an extra look. And he's been arriving late, a little too late, and certainly being outposted is not going to do him any favors on Saturday. But Rafael Santana has a way of putting spurs to horses, and I'm going to guess that he finds a place to drop in and save a little bit of ground and come with a run. And I think if you're looking for an oddball horse in here, it's Big Score, and he's going to be absolutely boxcars.
30-1 in the morning line. Yep.
And that's what I got. So
what do you think?
What
do you think if Heart to Heart is quicker on paper? Who's in front at the half mile pole and by how far, Steve? With Heart to Heart, with Voodoo Answer, and with Analyze It. I think we both agree. Well, three of us agree. Analyze It just a little bit off the pace.
That's a good question, and I would. Boy, oh boy. It all depends on a couple of other. It depends on a couple of other side factors. If anybody, in a field this size, some horses are going to be grappling for position early and into the turn, and horses get jostled and they get riled and they move early. You got that horse of Connor Murphy's with James Graham, great wide open. He's a horse who of late has run well near the lead.
Mm-hmm.
From down inside, I think you get the sense that he's going to have forward position himself, and he might find himself underneath, kind of prompting Heart to Heart, and then Voodoo Song on the outside. So these are the kinds of things that could contribute, to at least an honest pace. I mean, the one thing I don't want to see in a field this size is somehow Voodoo Song or Heart to Heart getting away with moderate quarters and an early easy half.
Whoever makes the lead is really going to have to earn it. You would know better than I would. Does Lynchy, as you call him, will he tell Julian, I don't care, sell out, make the lead?
Considering that he's a horse Heart to Heart that never runs two bad races back to back. I don't think he absolutely has to have the lead. I mean, certainly in the Shoemaker, he was comfortable, sitting, and as it happens, he basically lost a tight stretch run with Hunt, but I don't think there's any benefit to that mentality. And at the same time, I would think that Lynch doesn't have to say much to Leparoux. I mean, Leparoux has won a lot of races on this horse. Mm-hmm. And so, he'll know what to do. I mean, the bigger question is what Linda Rice wants to do with Voodoo Song and how much he's directed and Loscano is motivated, to get the lead. So, and he feels to me like the horse that needs the lead even more, and especially because he's posted further out. You mm-hmm. also got to fold in, John Velasquez is a guy that goes forward. So yep. Analyze It is not going to be taken up and wait for horses to clear. He will go forward and watch for Johnny to stretch Loscano out into the turn. Johnny's kind of a son of a bitch with that, and he'll be quite happy. He'll be quite happy to force Voodoo to run early.
Fascinating start of a race with so much on the line and rider intent and just can't wait till those gates fly open. I'll be fixated on Julian, see how committed he is to the lead. Johnny V, as you just pointed out, and same with Loscano. It's going to be fun.
Well, this was fun, and if you missed anything, the entire replay will be posted in a little bit. And we wish everybody the best of luck, and we certainly urge those of you that need to renew subscriptions or get an early renew subscription, use the fall flash sale opportunity and save $250 off the annual subscription. And we should also remind you, you got so many different ways to interact with the team at Stats Raceland. There's the Twitter feed, Stats_Raceland. You can write the Equibase team, and any of the developers and any of the support staff will help you with any questions or issues you've got, whether it's about the product, whether it's about the system, whether it's about your subscription, whatever you need. Stats feedback at Equibase.com. And then, that icon, Craig, show them the icon. Make sure that people know that they can get tips right within the forum, right on the platform as well. There it is, up in your upper right-hand corner. And Laffit, let everybody know where they will see you on their television set.
Again, it's NBC, both Saturday and Sunday. I'll be with Randy Moss. We are joined by Brittany Urton, Nick Luck, Matt Bernier. Last but not least, the star of our shows, Donna Brothers, will be horseback. I believe, God, I don't want to give out a bad time. It's either 4 or 4:30. It's on NBC. I've also taken the champagne from New York on Saturday. We'll do the First Lady, the British Futurity, Shadwell Turf Mile, and then we're all set for the Bourbon and the Juddmonte Spinster. One other race as well from Keeneland on Saturday. It's one of my favorite trips of the year. Feels like this is when fall starts with Fall Stars weekend and this final push in this major Super Saturday of final prep races for the Breeders' Cup.
Craig, tell everybody about your stand-up comedy, where you'll be.
At a drinking establishment near you.
In a sulky near you. In a sulky near you.
Yeah, maybe a karaoke bar. You know.
Look for Craig at Cal Expo. I love it. Well, that's everybody. Best of luck this weekend, and we will talk to you in 4 weeks. It'll be Breeders' Cup week. We will be in a frenzy, and hopefully you'll build your bankroll these next few weeks, and we look forward to talking to you then. Thanks so much from everybody at Stats Raceland.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Good luck.